The Lakers' defensive catastrophe has reached critical mass, and the front office knows it. After hemorrhaging at least 119 points in each of their last 3 losses, Rob Pelinka is desperately scanning the trade market for perimeter defender. The target? Clippers forward Derrick Jones Jr, who thrived alongside Luka Dončić during Dallas's finals run. But here's where it gets spicy. Why would the Clippers, currently imploding and facing potential severe penalties over the Kawhi Leonard salary cap circumvention allegation, strengthen their crosstown rivals for a championship push? Unless there's a third team involved. Enter the Celtics. Boston is actively seeking front-court depth and could use Anthony Simons as a trade chip, creating the perfect three-way mechanism. The Celtics, despite their success without Tatum, recognize their interior vulnerability. Meanwhile, the Lakers remain woefully exposed defensively, with Dončić, Reeves, and James providing virtually no perimeter resistance when healthy. Jones is shooting 52.5% this season while averaging 9.8 points, but statistics barely capture his real value. Elite wing defense and playoff experience from a finals team. For the Lakers, he's the exact defensive profile they lack when postseason intensity arrives. The Celtics could facilitate by absorbing Clippers' contracts while sending Simons elsewhere, creating a complex financial puzzle that benefits all parties. The controversy? Multiple Lakers targets, including Josh Green, also have histories playing alongside Dončić, revealing Pelinka's calculated strategy to surround his Slovenian superstar with proven chemistry. Critics argue this undermines competitive balance, essentially reassembling the Mavericks' finals core in Los Angeles. The Pelicans have already signaled they won't entertain Herb Jones. Trades at any cost the Lakers can meet, forcing creative three-team solutions involving contenders like Boston. League insiders now believe Trae Young, alongside LaMelo Ball and Ja Morant, might have negative value ahead of February's deadline, a stunning reversal for a 4-time All-Star. One Eastern Conference executive bluntly stated teammates hate playing with him, exposing Atlanta's impossible predicament. They're 14-11 without Young versus 2-8 with him. Yet a Western Conference GM admitted, "I wouldn't want any of them," when discussing available point guards. Enter the nuclear option, a 3-team blockbuster involving the Celtics facilitate. Here's why Boston becomes essential. Anthony Davis to Atlanta won't involve Trae Young, with Dallas demanding expiring deal, young asset, picks, and likely number 1 pick Zachary Risic. But there's a critical problem. Pairing Young's $49 million player option with Davis's $58 million salary pushes Atlanta toward $200 million in payroll for just 7 players, a franchise that hasn't paid luxury tax since 2011. The Celtics solve everything. Boston could use Anthony Simons' expiring contract and draft picks to fortify their front court while absorbing salary complication. Though the Celtics have rebuffed Derek White trade inquiry, they've informed teams any White deal requires a Mikal Bridges-level package of 4 unprotected first-rounders plus swaps, assets Atlanta and Dallas could collectively provide. Here's the incendiary truth. Davis has played just 16 games this season for Dallas, averaging 20.5 points and 10.9 rebounds. But the Mavericks are 4-12 without him and 11-29 since acquiring him. Charles Barkley publicly urged Dallas to move on and make it Cooper's team now after Davis's latest groin injury. Yet Davis is owed $120 million over 2 years and becomes extension eligible for 4 years, $275 million next summer. Financial dynamite for any suitor. Meanwhile, Atlanta is willing to surrender Risic in the proverbial right scenario, since the 2024 number 1 pick hasn't developed as hoped, creating the perfect storm. The Celtics, desperate to reset their repeater tax clause after Sam Hauser's $45 million contract could cost them an additional $80 million in luxury penalties, become the linchpin. The Suns face an existential crisis disguised as patience. Royce O'Neal accounts for over 20% of Phoenix's 14.2 three-pointers per night, shooting 43.1% from deep on 6. 8 attempts, yet he's fallen out of favor as subpar as of late, despite being their oldest player at a crucial veteran position. Nick Richards has been available for trade since this past summer, completely falling out of the rotation despite starting last season. Enter the controversial center, Jalen Green, the 23-year-old former number 2 pick who admitted they've been trying to trade me since last year, when Houston dealt him. Green averaged 20. 1 point per game across 4 Houston seasons, but has played just 1 game for Phoenix due to hamstring use, creating a brutal reality. He makes $106 million over 3 years, while the Suns have thrived without him. Here's where the Celtics transform everything. Boston slashed their payroll by nearly $290 million since entering repeater tax territory, trading Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to escape a projected $280 million luxury tax bill. The Celtics now sit $12. $1 million above the luxury tax, but are willing to pay some level, given their surprising 18-11 start without Jason Tatum, the 3-team nuclear scenario. Anthony Simons makes $26.7 million, the final year of his contract, perfectly positioned as Boston's primary trade chip. Executives believe the Celtics could duck the tax by trading Simon or moving Sam Hauser's $45 million extension plus minimum contract. Phoenix desperately needs a point guard, with mock trades suggesting Gabe Vincent could fill that void. Bleacher Report proposed sending Green, Richard, Rasheer Fleming, and a 2027 first to Atlanta for 4-time All-Star Trae Young. But here's the financial dynamite. Why trade a 23-year-old who can still blossom into a young star for a $49 million player option in Young? The Celtics facilitate by absorbing salary complications while extracting assets. Brad Stevens explicitly stated, "We will not put a ceiling on this group despite sitting $12.1 million over the tax," signaling willingness to weaponize their financial flexibility. Boston could swap Simons for a rotation big while still shedding money, positioning themselves as facilitator. Phoenix's brutal calculus. Losing O'Neal means increased minutes for Ryan Dunn and Fleming, both sub-30% three-point shooters who crater spacing. O'Neal's $10. $1 million contract makes him clean for salary matching, but owner Matt Ishbia declaring Brooks will be with us for good suggests Phoenix fears roster instability. Kristaps Porzingis has played just 13 of 26 possible games this season and will miss at least 2 more weeks while dealing with an illness, with Atlanta releasing a statement confirming limited basketball activities and evaluation, the same postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, that plagued him during his Celtics tenure. Mark Stein reported that any significant trade business Atlanta does in season is expected to include Porzingis' $30.7 million expiring contract, a damning admission that the Hawks already consider the controversial 3-team structure. Rival executives suggested a Hawks-Bulls trade sending Porzingis, draft assets for Kobe White, and Nikola Vucevic, described as the marginal move Atlanta prefers over blockbuster swing. But here's where Boston weaponizes their cap flexibility. Anthony Simons makes $27.7 million his final contract year, perfectly positioned to facilitate salary matching while Boston absorbs role play. ESPN proposed a 3-team deal that would save Boston $140 million in luxury taxes by step-laddering down from Porzingis' $30.7 million to Brandon Clark's $12.5 million. The incendiary health reality. Rival executives believe Atlanta could explore trading Porzingis, mainly because his $30.7 million expiring contract gives them options they didn't have before. But he's averaging 19.2 points and 6 rebounds when healthy. The issue is, he's a win-now player, stuck on a team that's 15-18 and firmly in play-in territory. The rise of Onyeka Okongwu, who exploded for 32 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocked, while shooting 8-14 from 3 in a 132-122 win over Utah without Porzingis, has forced the Hawks to think in a direction they didn't want to. The Celtics' savage calculus. Boston traded Porzingis to Atlanta just last summer in a 3-team deal with Brooklyn, getting Georges Niang and dipping $4.5 million under the second apron. Yet now they're positioned to facilitate his exit again. ESPN floated a 5-team blockbuster, sending Anthony Davis to the Hawks, Trae Young to Sacramento, Zach LaVine to Dallas, and Porzingis to Golden State. Chaotic scenarios requiring Boston's financial engineering expertise. Here's the brutal truth about holding. Atlanta acquired Porzingis by giving up Terrence Mann, Georges Niang, and a 2025 first-round pick, Drake Powell, envisioning him as the perfect floor-spacing big alongside Jalen Johnson and Trae Young.